Regular meeting for Thursday, August 4th, 2022 will now come to order. I'll have the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Mr. Smith.
Heavenly Father, we come in tonight asking for your guidance and wisdom as we conduct this meeting in a great way. Lord, give us a strength to make the good decisions and take care of Calcasieu Parish as well as the whole region. And all I ask in your name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. Mr. Abshire?
Here.
Mr. Angelopoulos?
Here.
Mr. Barris?
Here.
Vice President Barchi?
Here.
Mr. Brame?
Here.
Is here. Mr. Burley?
Here.
Mr. Guillory?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Landry?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Markentile?
Here.
Mr. Richard?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Tremonti?
Here.
And President Stelly.
Here.
Everyone's present.
Thank you.
You're
I would ask that everyone silence your cell phones, and if there's an item you want to speak on, if you'll fill out a blue slip and bring it to Miss Jessica up front, please. Because of the 5:45 public hearing, we're going to go to item number 2A, appearance by Mr. Hunter Lundy, candidate for governor of the state of Louisiana. Mr. Hunter, state your address. Lundy, state your address and name for the record, please.
Hunter William Lundy, 48996 Pine Valley Way, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 70605. Thank you, Mr. Stelly, Mr. President, and jury. So I'm honored to be able to speak tonight. You know, after 40 years of practicing law, in November of this past year, I prayed about what I was going to do. I knew I was going to leave the law practice, and I didn't know what I would do. But after being encouraged by 4 people independent of each other, my 90-year-old mother was the last one, I decided to run for governor. My brother and some of my colleagues wanted me to run for attorney general, but I know that you cannot affect change unless you have the power of the pen. So if we're going to do it, and I'm a we the people guy. You know, when I moved back to Louisiana after college and law school and working for a federal judge, I went to work for Sam Jones's law firm. Sam Jones was the last governor from Southwest Louisiana. And so Governor Jones did a lot that we don't even realize. You know, First Federal, his son ran Gulf National Bank. His industry came to Louisiana. So there is favor when you have somebody geographically that is helping. Not that we won't be the governor for the entire state, we will be. But I think it would be very important if we elected a governor for Southwest Louisiana. You know, when I say we the people, I'm a strict constitutionalist. I have a biblical worldview, and that I believe that states' rights are important. I believe the government should be run at the local level. You know, and the number 3 issues that we have in the state of Louisiana right now, as late as the survey of this year, have to do with infrastructure, education, jobs, the economy. Crime is on down the road, but the crime and education are mixed. And so I'll tell you that we've employed people that I consider to be intelligent, brilliant, to run this campaign, that we've already been around the state. This weekend I was with the Sheriff's Association in Florida. Got to talk to 40 sheriffs individually. So we have worked hard already. But before I spoke to any public body, I wanted to be, you know, respectful and speak to my own parish, my own constituents, the people that I've worked with and worked around for the last 40 years. So with the encouragement and the prayer, I started in January. I faded out of my law practice. I've given you know, the practice to my brother and my other law partners. Unfortunately, we lost Jackie South this weekend. Sam and I practiced law together for years, and she was a great lady. And so her funeral is Saturday, but she worked with us for 31 years, and she was a wonderful woman. But we moved forward. So I think that I have the energy, I have the strength. You know, the word says that wisdom precedes knowledge and understanding. It's taken me a long time, but I probably have some wisdom. because of my age. But I have pretty good genes. My mom's 90 years old, and she came out of the elevator dancing at the fundraiser the other night. So I feel pretty good about what I'm doing. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll email you a bio about me. And, you know, I've been involved in church and helping people, not just in the state of Louisiana, but fortunately in many different states. So I think we have a huge base. We've been raising money since January, and I know it's a race that takes millions of dollars to run, but I think we will do well. If you have any questions, I'll stop, you know, before Sam starts showing me the 3-minute mark. And so I will do that. Anybody have any questions? I'm a
Does
registered
anyone have any
independent.
questions for Mr. Lundy?
Yes, sir.
I just have a comment. Thank you, Mr. President. Hunter, I just want to say congratulations. You know, it's a big step, you know, to run for governor of this state. And I'm glad you stepped up to the plate and do it. And I don't know what Southwest Louisiana would be like if we actually had a governor from Southwest Louisiana. I think it would be tremendous. And I just want to wish you the best. I want you to know that I'll be praying for you. I consider you a friend. I've known you a long time. I know your character, and I just wish you the best.
Thank you.
And thank you for stepping out and wanting to do that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Good, thank you. Brian?
Hunter, you and I have been friends a long time, and I have all the confidence in the world in you, and I wish you the best of luck. No questions for you, as I've posed those already.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get some answers on some of that soon.
All right.
Forward to you publicly speaking on those issues.
We will. We've been writing policy for months right now, so we'll have a plan that'll be an effective plan. You know, I have some great ideas on crime resolution, on education, and so, I mean, I'm talking to people that I think I have a lot of respect for, and so I think you'll be proud of the ideas that we have and the things that will benefit this parish and the whole state.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Lundy, and good luck, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Item 2 is a presentation of awards from the 2022 Road and Drainage Trust Fund Program. I'd ask the jurors to please join me for the check presentations of your respective awards. We're going to meet right here on the front. Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1, West Calcasieu.
Donnie, you're number 2.
Huh?
We're number 2. We're number 2. We're the east side.
All right, yeah, okay. Roger's on the west? Yeah. Roger's on You getting some of that?
There you go, man. How are you?
I realize that.
Got it, man?
No, I mean, stay there. Look, somebody point at me. I used to call him Big E because he
Tell us where. This end would be,
Hold on, we gotta move from all this stuff.
Work. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Actually, you're gonna.
Consolidated District Number 2?
You're second to last.
Okay.
The rest of
East side, the rest of it. Here you are. East side, this is drainage district.
Got a big wallet?
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Ain't no way.
That's yours, hang in your office.
Take that, at least you get it. That's right. It's yours.
Mayor Hess, we don't have to share the photograph with anybody. You and I.
There you go, Tony.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Congratulations, sir.
Okay, you're ready? DeQuincy, City of DeQuincy?
Two, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Salford.
Hey, Mike, smile. Judge, you want one? Yeah.
We'll take it.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
Wait, who's taller, me or Judge?
Thank you.
Get on your toes, I saw you.
Hey, Mike, come get my cut, man. I thought it was 200. You got it on 170?
I seen the pain back of the head.
Hey, I would say don't spend it in the wrong place, but you got it.
Twice in one day, man. I got it. Tony, you looking good, bro. How you doing, sir? Hey, Tony. How are you?
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
You get to keep that, yes, sir. Try to catch it if you can.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any. I have about 10 with y'all.
You know, wait a couple of minutes.
Another meeting. Whoa. Brings us back to why black and with the skin on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Neighborhood.
I
545.
appreciate it.
I love it.
Better than 6.
Well, that's what
Okay, we're gonna hold a public hearing at 5:45, ordering said owners to show cause as to why the structures on said property should not be condemned. 1A, 2288 South Perkins Ferry Road, Moss Bluff, Ward 1, one house. Do I have someone to speak on that item? Is there anyone to speak on item 1A? Seeing none, I need a motion to condemn and remove in 30 days. I have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1A will be removed in 30 days. 1B, 4705 Goss Ferry Road, Northeast Lake Charles, Ward 1, one house and one accessory building.
Move to condemn.
Second.
Is there anyone in the audience to speak on item 1B? No one in the audience on 1B. Okay, I need a motion to condemn and remove in 30 days. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1B is condemned. 1C, 6048 Benny Lane, South Lake Charles, Ward 3, one manufactured home with addition. Anyone in the audience to speak on 1C? Anyone on 1C? Seeing none.
Move to condemn.
I had a motion by Mr. Abshire and a second by Mr. Barris. Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1C is condemned. 1D, 701 Sundale Drive, South Lake Charles, Ward 3, one house. Do I have anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on the item? 1D. Seeing none, I need a motion to condemn and remove. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Markentile. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. 1D is condemned. 1F, I'm sorry, 1E, 598 West Friesen Road, South Lake Charles, Ward 3, one house. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on 1E?
Move to condemn.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Brame. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1E is condemned. 1F, 9339 Nash Lane, South Lake Charles, Ward 3, one manufactured home. Anyone from the audience who wishes to speak?
Move to condemn.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Brame. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1F is condemned. 1G, 6456 San Diego Street, Southeast Lake Charles, Ward 3, one house and one accessory building. I have a motion to
September 1st.
I have a motion by Mr. Guillory to defer till September the 1st and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? 1G is deferred. 1H, no action necessary. 1I, 214 Noma Lane, Westlake, Ward 4, one house. Anyone from the audience to speak on 1I? Seeing none, I need a motion to condemn and remove. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Brame. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 1I is condemned. Item 2, I'm sorry, that's done. Item 3A, adopt a resolution approving a utility and drainage servitude agreement for the Highway 397 and James Sutton Road Waterline Loop and Replacement Project. Have a motion by Mr. Guillory and a second by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 3A carries. 3B, adopt a resolution approving an active donation agreement for the Highway 397 and James Sutton Road Waterline Loop and Replacement Project. Have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Markentile. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Seeing none, 3B carries.
Move on 3C and 3D.
3C, adopt a resolution, adopt a resolution approving an active donation agreement for the Sarah Street Bridge Replacement Project. Have a motion by Mr. Onderpunt and a second by Mr. Burley. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 3C carries. 3D, adopt a resolution approving a servitude agreement for the Sarah Street Bridge Replacement Project. Have a motion by Mr. Onderpunt and a second by Mr. Guillory. Is there any objection? Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none. 3D carries. 3E, adopt a resolution approving the parish's participation in the federal off-system bridge rehabilitation and replacement program agreement with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Seeing none, 3E carries. 3F, adopt a resolution approving a professional engineering contract for the LIB Orleans Drainage Project. Have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 3F carries. 4A, approve the minutes of the regular
moved.
meeting of the police jury dated July 7th, 2022. Have a motion by Mr. Abshire and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 4A carries. 4B, adopt a resolution in support of the Reinvesting in America's Shoreline Economies and Ecosystems, which is RISEE Act, for projects dedicated to coastal resilience and protection.
Move on.
I have a motion by
Second.
Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Barris. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 4B carries. Item 5A, approve
on
applications for
5A.
liquor and beer permits.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Richard and a second by Mr. Lewis. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 5A carries. 5B,
Move on 5B.
adopt an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 4091, which ordered demolition of one manufactured home on property located at 3702 Lakeview Drive, Deatonville, Ward 3. Have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Landry. Is there any discussion? Sir, I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, the structure has been demolished already. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. 5C, adopt an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 4092, which ordered demolition of, he's been demolished already too.
It's still, go ahead.
Still got to read them into the record? Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Elliott.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's actually, we have to rescind the ordinance.
Okay, adopt an ordinance rescinding ordinance number 4092, which ordered demolition of two manufactured homes on property located at 3704 Lakeview Drive, Deatonville, Ward 3.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Landry and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? 5C carries. Item 6A, adopt a resolution approving the submittal of a continuation grant
Move on 6A.
application for the continuation of the Truancy Assessment and Service Center. I have a motion by Mr. Guillory and a second by Mr. Abshire. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 6A carries. 7A,
Move on 7A.
adopt a resolution approving a grant agreement
Second.
for the fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023 Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act Title I funding allocation. I have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 7A carries. Item 8A,
Move
approve
on
payment of
8A.
all current invoices. I have a motion by Mr. Onderpunt and a second by Mr. Barty. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 8A
On
carries.
8B.
8B, adopt a resolution on bids for the Calcasieu Parish Forensic Center project. Staff recommends that the bid of Alfred Palmer LLC in the amount of $15,369,000 be accepted. Mr. Barris.
Seconding.
Oh, okay. I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Markentile. Is there any discussion?
What do I know?
Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. President. When do they expect to break ground on that project?
I didn't hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
How many years have it taken us? We're finally here.
Kelly, Director of Facilities. With this action tonight, contracts will go out. It takes roughly 4 weeks or so. Then we'll have pre-construction meetings. So it can be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks.
So like,
Reasonable.
for sure, September, October. for
Absolutely. There's nothing to stand in the way to move forward now.
I'm gonna run out of things to talk about. I won't even need to be here anymore.
Thank God.
Thank you.
Got the coroner's office to talk about.
Scratch that one off the list. You'll never hear me speak on it.
No, yeah, no.
I have a motion by Mr. Burley and a second by Mr. Markentile. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 8B carries. 8C, action on bids for canine and feline food. Staff recommends the bid of Hills Pet Nutrition Incorporated be accepted. I have a motion by Mr. Markentile and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 8C carries. 8D,
Move on 8D.
advertise for bids for 4 towable digital traffic message boards. I have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, 8D carries. 9A, Community Center and Playground District 7 of Ward 2, Mr. Michael Arthemont, reappointment. No, it was deferred
So
to
moved.
Thursday. Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Barty and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Arthemont is reappointed. 9B,
Move to reappoint Mr. Jeff Coates.
Industrial
Second.
Development Board of Calcasieu Parish. I have a motion to reappoint Mr. Jeffrey Coates by Mr. Underpont and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Coates is reappointed. 9C, Waterworks District Number 9
Move
of
to
Ward
reappoint
4.
Mr. Richard
Second.
Bonig.
I have a motion by Mr. Barris to reappoint Mr. Bonig and a second by Mr. Tremonti. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, Mr. Bonig is reappointed. 9D,
Move to
Ward 4,
reappoint
Fire
Mr. Charles Bucky
Protection
LeBeau.
District Number 4.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Burley to reappoint Bucky LeBeau and a second by Mr. Underpont. Is there any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, Mr. LeBeau is reappointed. 9E,
Make a motion to remove Mr. Mitch Bowers from the SPAR Board. Second.
okay, we have some speakers on this item.
We read the item.
Read the item. Adopt a resolution approving the appointment of Mr. Lynn Lamel as a member of the Board of Commissioners of Community Center and Playground District 2 of Ward 4, Sulphur Parks and Recreation. We have speakers on this item. Mr. Bowers, Mitch Bowers.
And Mr. President, as
Sir.
Mr. Bowers makes his way up, how many speakers do we have on the item?
We have 3.
2 minutes
2
each?
minutes, 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowers, state your name and address, please, for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Mitch Bowers, 2049 Louise Street, Sulphur, Louisiana. I am in Mr. Tony Tremonti's district. Would first like to thank you guys for your time. I appreciate this. I was excited last week after getting the reappointment. However, I thought my term would last longer than 9 days, but here we are. I'm here to talk to you guys about why I believe it's important that I stay on the board and not be removed from the board. I was appointed to the board 8 years ago. Through that 8-year term, I am serving currently as the president. I've been voted by my peers 3 times in that 8 years to be president. When I came to the board, there was 4 other members on the board that all had 20-plus years of experience. Their experience totaled 85 to 90 years of experience. There was a lot of wealth of knowledge on that board. That was very beneficial for me as a green board member. You know, coming in, I thought I knew what SPAR was. I thought it was, you know, baseball fields and golf course, but it was much more than that. I learned very quickly it was a $60+ million entity, and there's a lot that goes into that. Slowly, those board members have been taken off one by one, and we've been, you know, replaced. It seems there's been a precedent here lately where not many people can get that experience, that it's been a turnover, a revolving door there, and I understand that's kind of how it goes sometimes. I believe my experience is valuable to the board. because currently if you take me off, then we have 4 of the 5 board members all in their first term. You only have 1 other board member in a second term with more than 4 years of experience. We have a new director who's only been on the job for 6 weeks. I think she needs the support of a strong board with knowledge of how to guide and direct her through some of the decisions that are coming up, especially with the hurricane repairs and everything else that we go through as the board for Sulphur Parks and Recreation. This has somehow and not, it didn't mean for this to happen. I know it's frustrating for you guys to have this on the agenda, you know, every week. It's frustrating for me as well. I did not intend for this to happen. I just really wanted a voice in all this, and I felt like I was never getting that. I've never asked the police jury for anything. The only thing that I'm asking tonight is to please set politics aside. Please set the line that has been drawn in the sand aside and do what's right for Sulphur Parks and Recreation, do what's right for the new director, and do what's right for the kids of Sulphur. And in closing, if you don't believe that that's me, that's fine. I will humbly accept that.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
I will answer any questions if you guys have any.
Mr. President, Roger Morgantail,
Yes, sir.
District 11. Mr. Bowers, this is coming from me and only me on this jury. I want to personally apologize to you for sitting through this since March, because it's my belief this body's house should have been in better order than it was and is, but I'm highly confident in the future this body's house will be in good condition.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So I thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Bowers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Lynn Lamel. Is Mr. Lamel here? Oh, I'm sorry. Jay Abshar. Joy Abshar.
Thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. I'm Joy Abshire. I live at 2064 Louise Street. And I am proud to say that I am one of those long-term serving board members of Sulphur Parks, 23 years. 23 years where we worked hard to build that park and to always make sure that we were addressing the needs of our community and expanding that broad vision at all times. I cannot tell you how important it is to have some stability on a board. As ever-changing on your board, so do these boards change. And you need to have board members that you appoint that, in all due respect, make you look good. Because you do reap the good and also the bad. Mitch has been a strong leader. He is an independent leader. That board needs independent leaders. They do not need, in all due respect, police jurymen trying to promote their own agendas, and it happens, and it has been at a furious rate as of late. This park is supported by our voters in the city, and they want to know that first and foremost, our community is served. Beyond that, it is also great service to the parish. It is your entity. I make sure everybody knows that it is your entity, because everybody thinks SPAR means it belongs to the city of Sulphur. It does not. But we are the keepers of the park, and our voters have made that. If you take in the direction this has been going in and allow this to go to just get past you, then I think your opening statement and your prayer, I'm going to encourage you to look back at it. And it said, help us to make good decisions. You made a good decision last week. And I'm going to ask you to search your conscience and make that good decision tonight. This is not about Mr. LaMelle. He is a fine man. You would be best served to have both of these gentlemen, Mr. Bowers and Mr. LaMelle, on that board, and you would have a great board. And you talk about diversity. Well, the last reappointment on that board, you did remove some diversity. So think about the decision. It is time to make a decision. Sulphur needs it. Sulphur Parks needs it. You have a new administrator, and you have a lot of damage that we need to go forward with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Abshar. Do we have any questions for Ms. Abshar? Comments? Thank you, ma'am. That's fine. Thank you very much. Ronnie Bowers.
Hello, I'm Ronnie Bowers. I live at 1729 White Acres Drive in Sulphur, Louisiana. I've got 3 documents here tonight that I'm going to just read snippets out of, just so everybody understands where we're at. I've got here in front of me, and I've got a few copies if anybody needs them. I've got the legislative authorization from when SPAR started. So I'm going to read what it says about boards of commissioners in here. It says that the playground district will be controlled by 5 commissioners appointed to the police jury who shall be residents of the district, and after the initial appointment, all commissioners shall serve for a term of 4 years. Now, on this other document, I got this from the Police Jury Association of Louisiana, which is the policies of the police jury. And what I'm going to read is the removal of appointed board members. It says that if the legislative authorization, which is this that I read from SPAR, merely provides for appointing authority, then the police jury, parish governing authority, may remove members of the commission at its will. However, if the statutory authorization provides that the appointee shall serve a term, then the police jury is barred from removing appointees without sufficient cause. So that was that. Now I've got, this is from the Louisiana statute. This is RS 4554 for playground and recreation districts for the boards. I'm just going to read a part of it. Vacancies occurring otherwise than by expiration of term shall be filled by appointment by the presiding officer of the governing body for the unexpired term. There is no vacancy. There's no vacancy.
You're approaching your 2 minutes, Mr. Bowers.
That's all I wanted to read, but I wanted to make sure that the policy for removing board members was clear.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments from Mr. Bowers? Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Thank you, sir.
All right,
Mr.
y'all
Tremonti.
need copies? Anybody want copies of this?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Guess not.
I'm not going to deny any of what they've said. I like Mitch. I think he's a great guy, and I think he's done a great job. And I'm sure he would continue doing a great job. But after we did redistricting, Mr. Bowers, after the election coming up, will no longer live in District 15. That means our new representative will live in District 12. It's not a lifetime commitment. I confirmed with our attorney, Mr. Gabb, that we could replace Mr. Bowers, and we're doing it. It's nothing against Mitch. And I'm sure in some capacity, he may come back within the next year or so at an at-large bid. We've discussed it, Mr. Andropont and I. But this is nothing to do with performance. It's not lifetime. It's not a lifetime appointment, and we just simply want to give somebody else an opportunity to serve, just like he was given an opportunity to serve 8 years ago. And I yield back.
Thank you. Mr. Underpont.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Gabb, on the comments.
Yes, Mr. Bowers, you can be seated, right?
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Bowers?
can sit, Mr. Bowers. Thank you.
On the comments that Mr. Ronnie Bowers made regarding the statute.
Yes.
Your thoughts on that, please.
The 33-14-15 Revised Statute gives this body the authority to remove any appointee. It has the power to appoint with or without cause. Enacting legislation, I'm going to give you probably an answer longer than you wanted.
That's okay.
But police juries are bodies that are powers are dictated by state law. State law, Louisiana legislature will give this body the authority to establish special service districts. Sometimes those enacting legislation, enacted statutes say that you can't remove certain board members unless you have cause. If it's just for a specified term, however, just that somebody is appointed for 4 or 5 years, this body still has the authority to remove those persons at will, without cause. And that is what this board is. The statute that Mr. Bowers read from was 1948. In 1987, the Louisiana legislature came back and clarified that no. Just because we said it has to be, you have to serve for a certain number of years, doesn't mean that if this body decides in its own discretion to remove a person from a board it's appointed someone to, it can do so.
Thank you. I jotted down a few notes about Mitch, and I'm gonna shed my age. I coached Mitch when he was in T-ball. And I see some coaches from Sulphur Parks and Recreation out in the audience that are, I don't know, engaged. But I wrote an independent thinker. It was the first thing that I wrote. The second thing that I wrote down was intelligence. He's a bright young man. You can tell the way he articulates. He can express himself very well. Board experience, he touched on that. I think experience matters, not only on recreation boards, on all boards. Because as it says in the Bible, you know, where there's no knowledge, there can be no wisdom. And wisdom is very important on many aspects. He's currently serving as president. You heard that. You heard him say they have a new director. That's important, where you can draw on experience and knowledge of, hey, how do we do this? Now, granted, the current director has worked for SPAR. There's some internal knowledge there. But we all know on any body, any appointed body or elected body, it is the board that drives. It's the director's job to carry out the intentions as the staff to carry out the intentions of this body or any of those boards or police juries. And I think that's it's extremely valuable. But the last thing that I want to say is that I don't think really a lot of people may know. This board, you don't get paid to serve on that board. They do it. They're volunteers. And that's extremely important. And anybody that lives in Sulphur and the competitors in any sport, you're going to have all kinds of opinions. How come I can't have a court? Or how come I can't have a baseball field? Why am I? All of these things that they deal with. And they deal with that on a regular basis. But I think SPAR, Sulphur Parks and Recreation, as Ms. Abshire said, is, appointees from this elected body. It's a shining star, not only for this parish, but throughout the state and others. I mean, people come from near and far to play sports at our facilities. And I tell you, they do a very good job of balancing of our constituents, our residents, our taxpayers, both business and industry and residents, who benefit from that and share it with others. And it's something to be said for that. But I will tell you, you have to have a burning desire, and this young man shows this. It takes a lot of courage to come to 3 meetings and hear your name debated back and forth, and planning on speaking and then not able to speak, and then coming back, and then hey, you're voted in, and now you're wanting to be removed. It says a lot about his desire and the character that young man has. And I hope that you would vote against this motion to show support for Mr. Bowers. And I'll yield back, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Underpont. Mr. Gilroy.
Mr. Stelling, did I hear you say that Mr. LaMille was here and he left?
I have no idea. I read the wrong line.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
Any other comments? Mr. Tremonti, can you repeat your motion, please?
My motion is to remove Mr. Bowers from the SPAR board.
Okay, I have a motion to remove Mr. Bowers from the SPAR board and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any other discussion? Is there any objections?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have a roll call then.
Okay, we will start with the A's this time. Mr. Abshire?
Yes.
Mr. Anderpont?
No.
Mr. Barris?
Yes.
Vice President Bartu?
Yes.
Mr. Brame?
Yes.
Mr. Burley?
Yes.
Mr. Guillory?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Landry?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Markendale?
No.
Mr. Richard?
No.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Tremonti?
Yes.
The vote was 8 yeas and 6 nays, so the motion carried to remove Mr. Bowers.
Charles is removed.
Okay, now I need a
I
motion.
make a motion to appoint Mr. LaMelle for District 15 representative on the SPAR
I
Board.
have a motion by Mr.
Second.
Tremonti and a second by Mr. Barris. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brame. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, Mr. LaMelle is appointed to the board. Item number 10 is advised items. Item number 11 is also an advised.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.